Hello, good day. I hope you are having a good day despite all the challenges we are encountering in our virtual classes, especially with the challenges with the internet connection and with the unfriendliness of our technology. So, in this lecture video, I will be talking about communication for work purposes. This is a new chapter in the purposive communication class, but in this lecture video, I will only be focusing on oral presentation in the workplace. And the rest of the subtopics in this chapter will be discussed by you or will be presented by you also as an application of this lecture. So you will be doing an oral presentation with the subtopics of this chapter as your topic. So I hope that is clear to you that after this lecture video, you will be doing an oral presentation. So take note of the tips that I will be giving you on how to do an oral communication in the workplace. Okay, so as an overview to this topic, oral presentation demands a wide range of competencies and skills such as public speaking, business management, and organizational psychology. From the word competencies, you need to be competent, you need to be knowledgeable about your topic, you need to have a research, and then business management, from the word management, you need to have a plan, and you have to organize your thoughts, your main points, your introduction to your conclusion. That's why before your oral presentation, I will give you a template on the plan, your organization plan of your presentation. So always remember to apply the cardinal rule in business: to fail to plan is to plan to fail. So better have a plan for your oral presentation. And I'm quite excited about your oral presentation, and I hope that you will really find some ways to get through this oral presentation, even if there are a lot of challenges that you might encounter while on the making of your oral presentation. Please understand that all our challenges in this virtual setup is really temporary. Okay, so in this lecture video, we will focus on the 3 steps in planning your oral presentation. The first is the checking for rhetorical value. Second is determining your presentation type. And the third is organizing the presentation. Of course, I need to elaborate all these 3. The first is the checking for rhetorical value. So this is the Aristotelian rhetorical triangle concept. So you have to consider 3 things in presenting. So ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos, these are Greek words, which means ethos, which means ethics, pathos, which means emotions, logos, which means logic. So in ethos, as a speaker, you need to observe ethical standards of communication. That was our topic in our previous lecture video. So if you want to have a review of that topic, then you may still access that video. That is still very accessible as of today. So until today. So the very common dilemmas in ethical communication are the plagiarism, the selective misquoting, and the distortion of visuals. So if you steal the ideas of others without citing the authors, then that's considered as plagiarism. So if ever you are or you will use their idea, do not forget to cite the author. Give the credit to where it is due. And do not also select quotations and mislead your audience with the original meaning. Do not change the meaning of the original context by selective misquoting. Do not also distort the visuals in order to mislead your audience. That's for the ethos. In pathos, you need to touch the emotions of your audience before you begin with your presentation, or even after your presentation. Like before you begin your presentation, you may ask your audience, how was your day? Are you all feeling well today? Like that. So with that way, you will be able to build a rapport with your audience, and your audience will have a greater chance of listening to you from the beginning to the end, because you have built a relationship with your audience. For logos, it means that you need to be credible with the information that you are giving. You need to have a research, and you need also to cite your sources to add your credibility. You need to be knowledgeable. You have to have a research. Okay, that's the checking of the rhetorical value. For the second, that is determining your presentation type. This is quite familiar to you. This is the same with asking what are the types of speeches according to purpose, like informative speech, demonstrative speech, persuasive speech, and evocative speech. When you are ought to give an information, then that's informational. When you are ought to teach how to do this and how to do that, then that's instructional. If you are ought to convince your audience, that's persuasive. If you want to change the lives of your audience, or you want to inspire them, like in religious talks, then that's inspirational or evocative speech. So since I will be giving you the topics for your oral presentation, so I know that the common presentation types that you will be using is the informational and instructional type. Like if you will discuss about a business letter, you will give your audience or your participants an information on what is the anatomy of a business letter, and you will also teach them how to write a business letter. That's instructional. So I hope you already have a little idea on what to do uh, in your oral presentation. Number three, organizing your presentation. So from the opening to the main points, reiteration, first closing, second closing. For the opening, you can have some rhetorical questions, statistics, quotations, anecdotes, surveys, and humor. For the main points, you can say using three main points is usually the standard. So just like in extemporaneous and impromptu speaking, the three main points is really the standard. But if there is no other way to compress your strong points, if for example there are 5 strong points that you need to emphasize in your presentation, then let it be. Okay, reiteration, when you try to recap your strong points without the details anymore, in order for your audience to have a summary with the points that you have given to them. So reiterate. Number 4, first closing. It can also be with the ways you open your presentation, like quotations, anecdotes. So it's up to you on how you will close your oral presentation. And for second closing, this is the final statement or your conclusion. It can be a single statement that would sum up everything you have discussed in your presentation. I hope this is clear. That's the step 3 in planning your oral presentation. This is very important, the organizing of the presentation. And in delivering your presentation, 25% of it is the content. So I have included this in the criteria or in the rubric, but I have not put the details about what is the content or what is the component of the content. So we have here the verbal content, the visual content, and the support content. When you say verbal, so it's all about how you deliver it, and the visual is all about your visual aid, like in the presentation, PowerPoint presentation. And you need not to exaggerate your animations. Keep it simple yet presentable. For support content, it refers to your handouts. You may give your participants a handout via chat room in the Zoom, and you may also give me a copy of your handouts in order for me refer my quizzes, for example, from your handouts. You will also benefit from your handouts. Okay, so I hope this is clear. I don't have to read everything. You just have to read it because this is self-explanatory. And you also have to take note that you have to use purchase scripts from the beginning until the end of your presentation for a smooth transition. So example in your number one, negotiating the question process in presentation, like would you prefer to ask questions during the presentation, or shall we leave questions to the end? So in my experience, it is very common that the presenter would prefer having the questions right after the presentation, perhaps in order to avoid misleading the topic, because there are tendencies that the audience would be asking a lot of questions outside of the topic, and the speaker might be fascinated to answer all those questions, and then the speaker might lose his focus on the main topic of that presentation. So the advantage also of having some interruptions during the discussion is that there would be an immediate feedback if ever there are confusions of the audience. And the disadvantage is the loss of concentration by the speaker. Number two, clarifying the place of decision making in a meeting. Like, just to clarify, are we planning to have another meeting, or shall we make the decision today? So that's one way of, or one example of clarifying a decision making. Number three, clarifying what is polite to ask in social situations, especially if you are delivering an inspirational presentation, like, can I ask you about your family? I hope I'm not being rude by asking this, am I? You really need to be polite, because there are people who are very secretive and they would prefer having their personal information confidential. Okay? So you also have to be sensitive to different audience expectations and behaviors, negotiate the communication process in order for you to meet their expectations. Like, I think I should make a start. Are you all ready? Are you uh, all willing to listen to me now? And then polite comment, like, good to see everyone here today. I hope your travel was all well. And then what I want to do today is to talk about and equip you with the skills in blah, blah, blah. Then the timing, I plan to talk for about or for around 20 minutes. So I would not consume all your time. So you can also spare some time for your personal chores at home. And then number five, interaction. Should you have questions, you may just raise your hand via Zoom, right? You can raise your hand so that if you will allow them, or that if you have agreed that you can interrupt during, or they can interrupt during your presentation. So for middle input, the first point I want to discuss is, the second point that I want to discuss is, and so on. Clarification, does anyone have questions or clarifications at this juncture? That if you also allow them, or that if you agreed to have some interruptions during the discussion. Conclusion. So I would like to repeat or reiterate that my strong points are number one, number two, number three, and number four. So conclusion or reiteration is very important, so that the patterns of the information is really clear and not misleading. Number nine, close relationship. Like, if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach me by email or my mobile number. Number 10, formal end. Like, thank you for listening. It's been an honor for me to be your speaker for today. So that's the way you will end formally your presentation. And right after your presentation, you will have the evaluation. You may give your participants an evaluation form via Google form, or you may just send the link in your chat room. And then once they will click the link of that Google form, they will answer the evaluation questions. And then right after, when they submitted already the evaluation form, they may have an auto-generated certificate. So you may explore how to do that in YouTube. Perhaps there are a lot of tutorials how to do auto-generated certificates right after answering the evaluation form. Okay, so I would be glad if you will do that. I would be glad if you really try to exceed the standards, if you try to go outside the box. And then you may also evaluate yourself by asking, did I give an attention grabbing introduction? Did I motivate the audience in your simulation or in your performance? Of course, that is rehearsed, so you have a lot of chances to assess your introduction, your conclusion, or even your main points. Okay, but in your actual presentation soon in your career, you may do this evaluation. This is very common even in any activities we will do in life. We often ask ourselves, was it done well by me? Or did I do it well, like that? Number two, was my purpose achieved and clearly felt by my audience? So you may also ask your audience this: were the beginning and the end of my presentation established effectively? Was my language simple and audience appropriate? So you have to use simpler language. The simpler, the better. But there are also some cases that what is simple to us may not be simple to others. But anyway, just be simple in terms of language usage. Do not seek for synonyms or highfalutin words. Number five, were the pieces of information presented logically and substantiated with realistic evidence? So for you to have realistic evidence, that must be research based. Okay. Number six, did I give examples based on expert or research data or personal experiences? The advantage of research is that you will really have a strong claim because that's research based. And then the advantage also of personal experience is that your audience will really be attentive because that's personal experience. That's chica, that's chismes. That's very common even to our face-to-face classes where when the teacher will share her personal experiences, personal stories, personal love life, so the students will automatically be attentive. So the same with that, as an oral presenter, you may present a research or your personal experience, maybe a balance of both. And then, were my gestures, facial expressions, and body language effective? You have to match your gesture with the things that you want to emphasize, your facial expressions. Like if you are projecting happy thoughts, then project a happy facial expression. And like in some of the entries in speeches where the speech is probably supposed to be enthusiastic, yet the one who delivered it is quite sad or quite shy, like that. So it must match. And then number eight, was my voice effective in conveying the message? Did it arouse the right emotions or expression? Only few are really gifted with a well modulated voice. Some of us have thin voice, some of us have a very low voice, but with constant practice, there is a tendency that we will really have that ideal voice for oral presentation. So just have constant practice. Do not produce a very low voice because that would portray a very low self-confidence. If you are not confident with your topic, the tendency is, of course, you will lower your voice. And then do not also shout. Do not amplify your voice to the point that you will be shouting, because that is also irritating to your audience. Number nine, were the audiovisuals appropriate and friendly? This is quite challenging, especially in virtual setup, because sometimes technology would not really be friendly to us, and we will take a lot of, of efforts to accomplish our task, especially if there are a lot of interference in terms of internet connection. Number 10, did I talk to the audience, not to the equipment? Did I connect to them well? So I would like to remind you that in doing your oral presentation, just have some glance to your presentation or to your screen once you needed some guidance or you need to read something. But you have to go back to your camera. Look at your camera when you need to emphasize something to your audience. That's one way of projecting an eye-to-eye contact in a virtual setup. So since you don't see your audience, just imagine that your audience is inside that little camera. So stare at that camera. Okay? I hope that's clear, and I really want to emphasize that. Number 11, did I avoid filler words like well, okay? So like even myself is really guilty of that word. Okay, even the native speakers, they're really fond of saying like that. So avoid that to the maximum of your capacity. I myself is a fan of saying okay because I was used during the face-to-face classes that I really need to verify if they have understood what I just said. Okay, so avoid filler words, especially because that is a manifestation of poverty of words. Okay, number 12, did I exhibit enthusiasm and vibrancy? That this will follow confidence. If you are confident with your topic, if you are confident what you are talking about, then you will have extra vibrance and enthusiasm. And if you love also what you are doing, if you don't love, then of course you will not have the energy to do it. And I hope you will love it because in your career soon, this will really be part. Communication, speaking in front of people will really be part of your career soon. Aside, if you want to just stay at your nook or in your room and stay stagnant and don't want to earn anything, like just want to stay at the house and don't want to socialize, don't want to present something, don't want to improve, don't want to adjust with technology like that. Well, what are the areas I should improve on? Of course, there are a lot of rooms for improvement. Any presentation would not be perfect. That's why we really need to have the evaluation for us to be aware on what are the parts of our presentation that we need to improve. And the bottom line here is in number 15 is that nobody is perfect. So why would you be shy to present? Why would you be not confident in presenting where in nobody is perfect? Anyway, intellectuals will never look into your mistakes. They will look into your content. So be confident. Believe that you have something new. Believe that you have something to give to the people. You have something to give to your audience. So be confident. No matter how challenging it is for you, just give the best that you can give. Okay? So that's the end of my short discussion or short presentation about oral presentation in the workplace. And I hope you have learned something. And I myself even is not perfect with the way I present this topic, but I'm sure that there are a lot of you who can do better than I. So be the best version of your self and be confident. Do not afraid to commit some mistakes in your presentation. Observe the rubrics, follow the rubrics, and then observe observe the tips that I gave you, and good luck to your oral presentation. Thank you and have a good day.